Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Seahawks Now. Today, we discuss if Stefon Diggs could be a realistic receiving option in Seattle. Plus, speaking of receivers, the Seahawks, they have signed a new one. It's River Craycraft. Welcome home, River Craycraft. And Colin Cowherd had some interesting thoughts on Cooper Kupp's new contract with the Seahawks. We'll discuss all that and more right here on Seahawks Now. But before we begin, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that red button down below. It really helps us out. Hit the like button and comment down below, guys. What do you think about Stefon Diggs coming to Seattle, guys? I've been hearing a lot of rumors about Stefon Diggs. It feels like every single team in the league might be interested in Stefon Diggs, and I get it. You know, this is a guy who has had a rich career in the NFL. He's over 10,000 career receiving yards. He's up to 70 career touchdowns, 857 career receptions. Probably going to be a future Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I will say he's only a two-time All-Pro, four-time Pro Bowler, but he probably should have been a Pro Bowler maybe 6 or 7 times based on the way that the stats panned out. But that was when he was back in Minnesota. He really didn't gain prominence till he was about 27, 26 years old. Now he's 32, coming off of an injured season in Houston. The Texans have decided, they are not going to re-sign him. They don't want to bring him back. Honestly, I think it's kind of a weird call for them because when he was there, he was good. And the Texans, it's not like Tank Dell and Nico Collins were incredible last year. They also were banged up and injured a lot. So, I think that the Texans maybe are making a mistake here. But regardless, Stefon Diggs, he's an unrestricted free agent. He's been meeting with teams. He just visited the Patriots. And I posited the question, could he come to Seattle? What do we think about this, guys? Obviously, we just signed Cooper Kupp, but why not go sign another veteran receiver? I think Stefon Diggs has a DeAndre Hopkins-like season in him. Obviously, last year, DeAndre Hopkins went to the Chiefs, had a kind of just an underrated, low-key season with them, but he was a good piece on a championship-winning team as kind of a veteran wide receiver too. And so I think that, obviously, it's not necessarily a flashy move to sign Stefon Diggs anymore, but it could still be helpful. This is what DeAndre Hopkins did this year. 16 games, he started 8. He caught 56 passes, 610 yards, 5 touchdowns. Went for 10.9 yards per reception. And it's like, why couldn't Stefon Diggs do that? 5 touchdowns, 600 yards, 50 receptions, and playing a solid role with a really good team. I think that is where Stefon Diggs is going to land. He's going to land with a contender. He's not going to be the star receiver anymore. He's not going to be that flashy guy. He's going to be that veteran. And I think there is a question of, does Stefon Diggs want to do that? Because he, in the past, has had some, sort of not injury. He sort of had a bit of a target me sort of thing. He likes to be targeted a lot. But I think as he gets older, he will have to merge into that role. So the question is, in Seattle, is there a need for that? Is there a need for a second veteran receiver? And I think you could argue that there is, right? Right now we have 2 really good slot receivers. We don't really have kind of an elite downfield weapon. I think Stefon Diggs could still be that. And I know he got hurt last year, but the numbers, if you extrapolate the numbers to a full season, they're actually not bad at all. Last year, Stefon Diggs went for 496 yards in 8 games. If you take that for a full season, that's a 1,000-yard season. He caught 3 touchdown passes. Again, full season, he'd have had 6. And he caught 47 receptions. Again, in a full season, that would have been about 95, 96 receptions. So if he had played a full season, you'd be talking about a guy who caught almost 100 passes, who went for over 1,000 yards, and caught 6 touchdowns. That is productive. That's really productive. And he's never had an injury history before, so I'm honestly not that worried about the injury concerns. I'm just worried about, would he be willing to take a pay cut? Would he be willing to play on a sort of a cheaper deal? And would he be willing to kind of take a back seat to JSN in this offense? That would be my question for him. But anytime you have a guy with the resume of Stefon Diggs, you at least have to have that conversation. My guess is that the Seahawks did have that conversation, and then they probably said, actually, we'd prefer Cooper Kupp over Stefon Diggs because he fits our scheme better. And that's totally acceptable as well. Now, speaking of guys that the Seahawks just signed, they just brought in former Washington State University receiver River Craycraft. This is an interesting one. River Craycraft basically spent his whole career with the Dolphins up to this point. I'm pulling up the River Craycraft history, but he was a former Cougar, which I appreciate because I am also a Cougar myself. Go Cougs. And now he's coming home. So he actually started his career in 2018 with the Denver Broncos. He caught 1 reception for 44 yards. Then in 2019, he played in just one game, was mostly Denver didn't use him all that much. He was more of a practice squad guy. In 2020, he went to the San Francisco 49ers, where he caught 6 passes for 41 yards and 2 first downs, no touchdowns. Then in 2021, again with the 49ers, he played 6 games but did not catch a single pass and just appeared on special teams. Then in 2022, he kind of had his best season with the Miami Dolphins. He caught 9 passes for 102 yards, 11.3 yards per reception, and he actually caught 2 touchdown passes that year as well from Tua Tagovailoa. 2023, he caught 9 passes again for 121 yards and went for 1 touchdown. And then in 2024, he went for 66 yards off of 7 receptions and no touchdowns. He did catch 4 first down passes. So yeah, I mean, it's not a lot. He's definitely a guy who is kind of a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. He has a little bit of history returning punts, but he's probably not going to do that. He's returned 1 punt in his career for 40 yards, and he's also returned 3 kicks for 23 yards. So yeah, not a whole lot. 3 career touchdowns across 7 seasons. But it is a cool story. You bring back a guy who, spent his college days in Washington, a guy who has a connection, I'd say, with a lot of Seahawks fans. There's a lot of overlap between that Wazoo fan base and the Seahawks fan base. So that could be a cool little connection for them. And it's also just wide receiver depth. I mean, he'll be competing with guys like Derek Young, guys like Cody White. He'll be competing for that kind of wide receiver 5 slot. I think right now the Seahawks 4 receivers are pretty much set. It's going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba number 1, Cooper Kupp number 2, Marquez Valdes-Scantling is your 3rd receiver, and Jake Bobo, I think, will return. I think he will make the team once again and be the Seahawks' 4th receiver. So then it becomes down to, guys like Cody White, guys like Derek Young, guys like River Craycraft. Who's going to be that 5th guy? Who's going to be that guy who, might catch 1 or 2 passes here and there and really is more of a special teams guy. But as a special teams guy, I do like it. He's found a home in the league. He's bounced around, but every team he's been with has seemed to like him. He's a good team player. All right, guys, finally, I want to tackle this, not really maybe controversy. Colin Cowherd, he had some words about Cooper Kupp. Says it was a bad contract for Seattle, and I don't love to hear this out of Colin Cowherd because this is a guy who grew up in Washington. He's a big Seahawks fan, but he went on his national radio show and basically said he thought the Cooper Kupp contract was a mistake. And now his reasoning for that was because he claimed that Cooper Kupp does not get downfield separation like other veteran receivers. He says that, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, who are now obviously the duo on the Rams, get separation, and Cooper Kupp does not. So here's some interesting stats. According to Next Gen Stats, this is from 12th Man Rising, Cooper Kupp actually averaged 3.3 yards of separation per catch in 2024. Devontae Adams, he averaged 3.2 yards per separation per catch in 2024. And Puka Nacua also averaged 3.3. So, yeah, there's nothing there that really indicates that Cooper Kupp is falling behind. He actually got better separation than Devontae Adams last year, and he got just as much separation as Puka Nacua. And if you look at cushion yards per catch, Devontae Adams, 5.5. Puka Nacua, 6.5. Cooper Kupp actually had better than both of them at 7.1 yards per catch. Now, you could say there's a caveat there. That's only measuring the balls that they caught. You could say, well, maybe, when he's open and he catches it, he does get good separation. But the reason why he wasn't catching many passes last year is because he wasn't getting open and he wasn't getting separation. And that might be true. There might be some merit to that. I think if you look at the Cooper Kupp stats last season, you'll see a very clear kind of a split. Because at the beginning of the season, he was really good. And then towards the end of the season, he kind of tailed off. In the month of September, he caught 18 passes, 147 yards. In October, he caught 5 passes for 51. In November, 32 passes for 350 yards. And then in December, he caught just 12 passes for 162 yards and just 1 touchdown in December. And he really didn't do anything in January either. So that is kind of where you could maybe hold your breath and say, well, why did he tail off at the end of the season? He wasn't even being thrown the ball towards the last few games of the year. I would know. I had him on my fantasy team, and the reason for that is maybe because he was slowing down and he wasn't getting separation. Because the separation stats was only on the yards per catch. So potentially when he wasn't catching the ball, he wasn't getting separation. You could say that, but we don't have any evidence. There's no statistical measurement of that. So that's really just, that maybe that's what Colin Cowherd's opinion is. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the fact that Matt Stafford just stopped throwing him the ball last year. I made me mad as a fantasy owner for sure, but I don't know if that means anything about Cooper Kupp's level of play. It might just mean that, Nakua was more open. I don't know. But it's saying as far as it's a bad contract because he doesn't get separation, the other thing there is, why was it a bad contract? It was only $15 million. Colin Cowherd seems to think that the Seahawks just should have ran it back with only JSN. I get it. But Cooper Kupp is not on an expensive deal. $15 million a season for 3 years is, I think, more than fair for a guy who has the resume, the experience, the leadership that Cooper Kupp brings to the table. And again, it's not like he had a bad season last year. He had a good season last year. He was just a little bit overshadowed by Puka Nacua. So I would just have to say I disagree with Colin Cowherd here. I think that the Cooper Kupp contract was a good contract for the Seahawks. But let us know down below in the comments, what do you think? Was it a good deal? Was it a bad deal? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And as always, until next time, go Seahawks. We'll see you guys tomorrow.